All right, Peter, welcome to Trade Talk Podcast.
Thank you, Justice. Pleasure to be here.
Well, it's really exciting to have you here. And my favorite part of this today is that you walked up just about 5 minutes down the street at your headquarters to come here and shoot this podcast.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, like where our headquarters are like literally a stone's throw from each other. So drive by all the time and I think about you and like, what's K&D up to? Like what's happening next over there with Justin and the team, right? Which is awesome because things are always happening over here in your new space.
Yes.
First time here. So congratulations. Way
Thank
to go.
you.
Nice
Thank
expansion.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's not easy to find office space in Watsonville or anywhere here.
And the human component of office space is so real. Like, you know, just because there's space doesn't mean it's your space.
Yes.
So good job, like, and making the decision, which is also hard, and like pulling the trigger and being like, let's do it, right? Like instead of just like, well, maybe we could just cram some more people into the same space. Like, maybe there's a little more room. It's okay. It's okay to have a line at the bathroom. It's fine. It's fine, right?
Well, I'm sure in 126 years of growing Graniterock, there's been different stages of that.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, absolutely. You know, my first office at Graniterock was a single wide trailer that was sitting at the quarry, and for some of that time it was, you know, on a generator. You know, I operated out of a, you know, blue room restroom for at least half of my career, and because your office is wherever your office is, and that's just where the work is happening, right? And you just follow whatever it is. I do have a nicer office now, which is nice. I got a nice cubicle in the big ivory tower of the corporate office, which is a nice upgrade. But the office space is real.
It is. Well, so let's get into this. I want to start by just introducing you real quick. And for those listening, I've got the pleasure here of introducing and interviewing Peter Lemon with Graniterock, a 126-year-old company headquartered right here in Watsonville. Started in Watsonville, correct?
Yeah. I mean, we started in San Benito County officially, and that was our quarry, and we began right there at the side of the rail, right in 1900.
Wow.
February 14th, which is Graniterock Day, also known as Valentine's Day.
Also known, yes.
Yes. And, you know, we started there. Quickly, Watsonville became our home because it was the closest like metropolis. Because you know Watsonville is a booming metropolis,
giant, especially in 1900.
In 1900, and so Watsonville quickly became the home of the office and the, you know, kind of where that was occurring. But we've been operating still in Aromas, where we started, in San Benito County since 1900 continuously. Our plan is to continue operating there for another 125 years and continue to do what we've been doing. And that is an amazing legacy to be a part of. And it's very exciting to be thinking in the terms of not only years and decades, but also centuries in an organization. But yeah, this is home. This is where we live. This is where we breathe. This is our community. We've had generations of Graniterock people grow up here, work with us, you know, grandfathers, sons, daughters, you know, the whole gamut, cousins, second cousins, exes, you name it. You know, everybody has had a chance to be a part of Graniterock in this community in one way or another. You know, the degrees of freedom from Graniterock when you've been in the community for 126 years, not too far. Almost everyone's got some connection.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that right now because my cousin, Bobby Green, he's listening to this, I'm sure. He started as a security guard just about 6 months ago at the Wilson Quarry. He just got promoted and got into the Local 3, and he's now operating one of the loaders out there.
See, there you go. Not too far away.
And he's a young kid. So.
It's all related. Good for him. That's an amazing place. The Wilson Quarry as a place to visit and go see. Man, it is an amazing operation. And that's exciting. And working there is even better.
And it's intimidating. I was 16 and I learned how to drive stick shift on a 1985 GMC dump truck. And my dad sent me up there to the quarry almost blind. I basically went into the office, said, hey, can someone show me around to where I go into this load up area and you pull the the string, what have you, to get loaded up with base rock. I think we were getting class 2 base rock, and I was not quite lined up right in the chute, and half the load fell off.
Okay.
Yeah,
that explains a lot. Okay.
So that was my one and only mistake. And then from there, I was like, all right, I'm perfect center load. But man, it's been some really fun times and some really scary times up at the quarry. Oh, it's an intimidating place.
It is. It is. I mean, there's a lot going on there. And, you know, when you're moving, you know, up to 4 million tons of rock a year out of a location, there's a lot going on, right? Yeah. And, you know, there's all the systems, and there's the customers, and then there's the team members, and there's, you know, all the regulators, and it's all of the, you know, all of the pieces all coming together to make that happen. And yeah, it can be a little intimidating because there's a lot happening all in one place, all at one time. And I'm sorry you missed your first load.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like you figured out it on the second one.
Yep. I will say the team up there is very focused on safety. And that was one of the big things of like hard hat, safety vest, don't get out of your truck, follow the leader kind of thing. So, yeah, you know, safety is a big part of your guys' culture. That was actually one of the things we took away when we were building our core values. We looked at Graniterock and we saw the way you put safety in front of everything. And so our number one core value and fundamental is practice safety first.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in any way you say it, you know, and it's just absolutely true that safety culture is usually a leading indicator to the rest of the culture that follows behind it. But because if you could start with safety, everyone understands it, right? And if you could start there and it's like, yeah, I get that. Like, let's not hurt myself. Let's not hurt the person I'm working with. Let's not hurt the customer, and let's not hurt the public. Like, that's 4 things that you've agreed on. Yeah. Like out the gate, like everybody, nobody's going to argue like, well, it's okay to hurt the customer. Nah, you know, not a thing, right? But those first 4 things, and however you say it, you know, for us, it's safety before all else. However you say it, that creates that first moment of agreement. Everyone from that moment forward is like, hey, well, we agreed on that. Okay, now we can work through the rest of these things. You know, how are we going to act in the community? You know, how are we going to act as an organization? You know, how are we going to be successful? How are we going to win against the competition? Okay, now we can work on that. But you at least have a foundation that everybody agreed on that very first, most crucial thing. Yeah, safety, that works. We're going to be a part of that.
Let's focus on that. Well, I want to go way back here to the beginning of your career and how you originally got into Graniterock. You were going to UC Davis, you put yourself through college. Maybe take us back to the beginning of your career at Granite.
Well, I'm a civil engineer, so I'm a stamping civil engineer. You know, when I went to college, you know, I believed that what I wanted to do was to go design and create, you know, things in our community, right? I didn't know if I was going to do bridges or waterways or like roads or buildings. I knew I wanted to build and design things. That's what I thought. But, you know, it was, I grew up on the peninsula in Monterey, and it was the holidays, and I just happened to be walking, you know, downtown, and one of our ready-mix drivers, a guy named Sal Giamona, he knew my dad from high school or something, walked up and said, hey, you know, he ever considered applying for an internship at Graniterock? And I was like, well, why would I work at Graniterock? They just drive ready-mix trucks. Yeah. Like what would I do as a civil engineer with the ready-mix truck company, like delivering concrete? And he's like, oh, no, there's much more there. You know, there's other things going on, and you might enjoy it. And I was like, well, does it pay? And he's like, yeah, I think it does. I was like, okay. Well, that got me in.
We're starting to check a couple boxes.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm, you know, because I'm like, hey, you know, because I was working my way through college, and, you know, I needed to have, you know, employment over the summer. And, you know, my past employment, I'd worked as a counselor at the scout camp, and that doesn't pay real good. A lot of fun. Totally. Not a lot of pay. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll do this. So I went and got the application. And at that time, the application, it was paper, and you had to actually handwrite all of your responses. And it was a part of the application where they actually evaluated your handwriting.
Interesting.
And so that was like the slowest writing and the most methodical writing I've ever done in my whole life. Yeah. And it was like 6 pages of like handwritten.
Wow.
Now I would fail.
Imagine that, yeah.
Right? Never have I don't write, I can't, probably in the last year, I haven't written that much.
No, just like a to-do list or something.
Right? Jot a couple notes. Turned in that application, and I got accepted to come work at Graniterock. And, essentially I started out just literally answering the phone and doing data entry. And, from that moment, when I got started with that, I got the opportunity to be a part of the building and the creating. I was a part of the construction group, and that just absolutely was my favorite thing. I was just, this is awesome. The people are amazing. The customers that you're working with have real material projects that we're going to go do something with. And the challenges were every day different. And so it wasn't the same every day. And that for me was just magic. Yeah. And so from that moment, I was an intern for 3 years. So I spent 3 years interning. And I came back full time after that. And then from that point on, I just did whatever Graniterock needed me to do. And I just said yes to every opportunity, whether it was estimating or project engineering or being a weighmaster or running our logistics fleet or going to run the quarry or now becoming the CEO and president. I just, whatever you want to do, let's go.
Wow. So I love that you say that, because I do believe the hunger and desire to just say yes. And whatever the company needs, I'm going to find a way to deliver, even if I'm not 100% confident in my abilities. I've noticed that's a characteristic of people who move up through an organization in a very positive way. And I've noticed others that are trying to, put other people down to get ahead, never really make a lot of traction. So tell me a little bit about that beginning. What type of construction projects were you guys working on? For those who know a little bit about Graniterock, but maybe not a lot, what type of construction projects do you find yourself on?
Yeah, so Graniterock is a vertically integrated construction, heavy civil. So we get the rock out of the ground, we take that rock, and then we go and we make it black into asphalt, we turn it white into concrete, and then we have a logistics arm that delivers it by rail or by truck, and then we have our construction group. And so our construction group, which does heavy civil, so that's roads, bridges, earthwork, grading, flat work, and they are, all across the Bay Area. So, San Francisco, North Bay, into the little bit of Sacramento Valley and all of Monterey County. And basically, if it's something that is a part of infrastructure of anything on the ground, we're a part of it, and we want to be a part of it. And so in the beginning, when we were in that era, we were doing primarily paving. So asphalt paving was kind of our thing. And I'm going to say, something I'm not going to say right now. So back then we were called Pavex. Yeah. We've gotten rid of that name. We don't call ourselves Pavex because at that time we wanted to be paving experts. And so that we were like, we branded ourselves Pavex. And, the reason why we tried to brand ourselves, because we were really sneaky, because we also sold asphalt, and then we were going to compete against the people we were selling asphalt to. So we have a different name, right? They'll never know it was us. Yeah. But we're bidding on the same jobs, right? And there's obviously tension there in you're being a provider of a service, but you're competing with your customer.
Right.
And so in the beginning, it was mostly paving. And then we grew up and then started doing earthwork and overpasses and Caltrans work and, hospitals and, you name it. If you look around our region, it probably has some part of either our product, service, or our own work that was delivered by Graniterock.
Yeah. And so what's it like building a bridge? I'm so fascinated with that. It seems like it's so much engineering. And then to actually put it all together and it comes together, I've watched these guys build bridges over the years around here, and especially in the Bay Area. It's a fascinating process. Have you been able to be a part of those projects from start to finish?
Yeah. And, in those, and the reason that bridges are interesting in that way is that it's perceived really high risk. Because hey, you're going to go build something that's about to defy gravity. Yeah. Right. And it's crazy heavy, right? It's steel and concrete, and you're going to go suspend it over hundreds and hundreds and thousands of cars every day. Yeah. and you got to do that without any problems. So that work, it's all about planning. It's about execution. It's about being thoughtful. It's about engineering. It's about everybody being lined up on the sequence and cadence of work. So it's actually less about like, hey, did we design a strong bridge? It's more, hey, did we design a strong plan on how to get from when it's, baby bridge just coming up out of the ground to fully complete bridge, that time span in between, that planning, that safety, with the false work and the steel and the tensioning and all of that sequence of work is really where the tension lies. Because it's in that sequencing and understanding is where things can go really bad, right? Because you're like, hey, let's just do a little bit more today. And it's like, well, that actually could put the whole thing at risk. Yeah. Because there's an orderly sequence of how you need to go about the work. So bridge building is fun and it's interesting. I do like it, but moving earth and rocks, way more my jam.
Yeah. Because when you're moving rocks and moving earth, it's just, you've got a pretty clear path forward. There's less coordination of different subcontractors and different specialty trades.
It is.
You're just pushing forward.
It is. And there's more opportunity for, what I'll say is like individual contribution in that work because, hey, someone's got a good idea. Hey, we can do this a little bit different. You can kind of like make that adjustment and then get things to be a little bit better because it takes a whole team to execute that. And the bridge work, because of that structure and timing, it's like you're a little bit locked in. Like once you say go, like you're kind of that sequence. And there's things that people can make better for sure. But there's more control because you're trying to defy gravity over thousands of people every day. So you want to take much less risk.
Yes.
Whereas when you're moving earth and rock, you can kind of be like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe if we did cut, counterclockwise versus clockwise, maybe that will be better. Let's try it out and see what happens. So there's more room to be, curious and innovative there, at least in our industry, which sounds crazy. It's like, really, Peter, like moving dirt, like curiosity, innovation. It's like, well, it's true, but you're spending so much money so fast with such huge capital investment of iron that those little tiny tweaks mean so many dollars.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, if you're grading a large project like a track home development or something, the amount of money in machines and then the fuel per hour and the wages per hour, the amount of dirt you can move in an hour or a day is pretty amazing. And to be able to see that, I've watched it, with landscaping, we're kind of waiting for all that to be done for us to come and do the work. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten to watch a lot of dirt be moved in my time. And I'm just fascinated by the ability to look at this ungraded place, look at a topographical grading map, and then watch these guys with land movers and dozers and trucks just maneuver the land into be this perfect level or maybe not level place. It's really actually kind of an art.
It is. And the critical thing there is everything is heavy, everything is expensive, and you don't have any room to do things twice. So, there's, like carpenters, they like measure twice, cut once, right? In earthwork moving, it's like, well, what's the big deal, right? Like, just move it again, right? Like, it's fine. It's just dirt, right? Yeah. But you're spending real money. So being able to do it right, do it efficiently, do it in one pass in the right way, in the right order, is the really interesting and fun part there. Yeah. And the stuff's big, right?
Oh my gosh.
And big equipment, doing big stuff. Moving mountains is just really exciting.
So that brings me to this question about the quarry, because this is one of the biggest quarries that I know of. Maybe you have some stats on that. I get to fly out of Watsonville here in my plane, and one of my favorite things to do when we have nothing else to fly, we're just going up to have fun, is to fly over the Aromas Quarry, because it's kind of no man's land in terms of the aviation side of things. And you get this beautiful, spectacular view on a part of the land that is really hard to actually understand just how big the quarry is and what an amazing operation that is. You got to run the quarry for a little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was blessed to give it that opportunity to say yes and go and do that. I spent about 12 years running the quarry. Wow. And to this day, absolutely the best job at Graniterock is being the quarry manager of the Wilson Quarry. And I would I like my job right now, but I would trade it out in an instant to go back to run the Wilson Quarry.
Oh, that says a lot.
It's just an amazing operation, been in the operation since 1900, right? So there's a lot of history there. It's also really big. So it is the largest hard rock quarry this side of the Mississippi.
Wow.
It's a, major resource to this community. And, that resource, dimensionally, we go down to 120 feet below sea level. So it's below sea level. It's about a mile long. It's about a half mile wide. And it's the resource by which, essentially the Bay Area and the Central Coast was built on.
Right.
And, when we're, in that space and you're inside the quarry and you're down looking at things and there's a Deal Evan dozer and we, my second favorite job is doing tours at the quarry. And I'm taking people in there and they're, oftentimes it's school kids and they're like, my dad drives a really big dozer. And I'm like, oh, is it as big as this one? They're like, oh yeah, for sure. And I was like, okay, little dimensional problem because you lose perspective.
Totally.
And because then I explain well, this dozer, if it was going to go down the road, it would be a 4-lane highway that the blade crosses, right? The blade's 4 lanes wide, and I'm sure, elementary school kid, your dad does drive a big dozer. I'm sure he does. But it's like a little tiny baby compared to this. And you walk up 2 sets of stairs to get up into the cab. But in that place, everything just kind of loses perspective.
Right.
Which is part of the magic of what you're saying. When you don't get a feel for it unless you can kind of step back and take it all in, because it is a tremendous resource. It just really is. And there's over 100 people that work there.
Wow.
It operates on multiple shifts, and we're processing aggregate at night, and we doing maintenance in the day and shipping aggregates 24/7. And it's all this huge automated machine to turn itself on and turn itself off all by itself with no human intervention.
Wow.
And that's operating over acres and acres and acres. And that to me is just so amazing. And you're right, hard to perceive that. However, if you're in Aromas and it's October, which is actually Rocktober, just to be clear.
Just to set the record straight.
Set the record straight. It's actually
no more February 14th. That's Granite Rock Day.
That's Granite Rock Day. And Rocktober, we run a 10K and 5K run at the quarry. So you get to go run down inside it. We invite all the community to attend that. And that is kind of a really magical moment, kind of what you're saying, to get people to see it and experience it, right up close. And it's amazing. I mean, people, when they see it and they experience it, it's just not what they expect it to be, because you have to go there, right? It's like Disneyland for rocks.
It is.
Right? It's just amazing. It's something you got to go to and experience. You can't experience Disneyland watching it or seeing it on TV. You got to actually go. Yeah. And that's when it's real.
Wow. I want to go take a tour just as you're talking about this. I want to go.
Let's go.
Let's go do it. Let's end the show.
Yep, sorry.
Let's go right now. Sorry, guys. We'll take it on the road.
Yep.
So, wow. So you mentioned automation. And when did automation start becoming a part of the quarry?
Yeah. So I'll take you way back, if you don't mind. So
please.
In the beginning, in 1900, no automation. It was literally pickaxes and donkeys and buckets and shovels, right?
Wow.
In the beginning.
Yeah. Yep.
Then quickly thereafter, we started to get the first types of mechanization in. So little tiny ore carts pulled by donkeys, right? So it'd be an ore cart, you put the rock in and they can move it with a donkey on a little narrow gauge, and they take that little cart and they dump it out, right? Mechanization. Then came industrialization. And so then we started to get locomotives.
Yeah.
And so the locomotives, now we have an engine, don't need the donkeys and the mules anymore. And now we have, hydraulics and, all of that type of industrial tools that came into the quarry. Then after the industrialization came what I'll call, kind of the next era, which is, really the mechanicalization, which is when the rubber tired loaders started coming in, and the mobile equipment, and all those started running around, and once again, on our way to what's coming next. Then really proud. We actually installed a rock ATM at the quarry, and this happened in the 80s.
Okay.
So take yourself back to the 80s, and you would go into the quarry, and there was actually a box, and it had like one of those green screens with a big keys on it.
Yeah.
And you could put in your number, and it would issue out rock to you out of the plant.
Yeah.
In the 80s, and that was like groundbreaking,
Yeah,
like mind-blowing technology. Like, what? Like, I could put in a number into this box and it'll like give me rock? That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then from there, we started into kind of towards the more modern area. And that's where we've gotten into where we got true automation, machine learning. So we implemented machine learning probably back now, gosh, dating myself, 10, 15 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, you know,
That's pretty like advanced 15 years ago.
15 years ago, people weren't like, it was still like in textbooks, like, hey, there's going to be this thing about machine learning.
Yep.
And we were implementing that. And those automation models are now what operate the quarry today. So the what we call the primary, the secondary, the water reduction, the sand, and the load out processes all are utilizing automation and machine learning. So fully implemented self-learning cycle, and it takes 3 people to run the operation. They have a big, room full of screens, but we're not done.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't know, have you heard about AI?
Just barely.
They've got this thing that's new. It's called this artificial intelligence.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Something about large language models or something.
I know nothing.
So now that's also going to be a part of what happens next.
Wow.
And so, for us, it's a very natural progression. Over 126 years, you learn to adopt the technology that is being adopted, learning how to be the difference between bleeding edge and cutting edge, and where does it apply into your business. And now it's the era of AI, and we're going to learn and apply that AI into those operations so they can help facilitate. And what's interesting here, over time, you could think of it as, net, we'll call it man hours per ton.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So, man hour per ton, pick, mule, bucket, shovel versus man hour per ton today. I mean, it is not magnitudes. It's like exponentially more tons per man hour, right? And in this AI moment, it'll be interesting to see if it affects, that arc, or if it's going to affect more of these other dimensional things, and not necessarily in throughput, but in safety and in like quality of the human experience in doing the work, right? The ability to get yourself out of the machine and to be able to not, even though it's really cool to operate machines, like maybe you don't need to be in the cab, right? And maybe you could be out of the cab and then just observe it and not put yourself in harm's way. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think, in this next era, it's going to be less about, how many tons per man hour are we producing, and how can we improve the quality of what we're producing for not only the team and the operators, but for the customer, which is a different value proposition than just doing more.
So you're having to adjust how you measure success to some degree, bringing on new technology.
For sure.
Wow. So as you go through these stages, and obviously going back 100 years, you have to make decisions around capital investment, major capital investment, when we're talking about the biggest, hard rock quarry this side of the Mississippi. How do you make those decisions as CEO today when it comes to large, 7, 8, 9-figure decisions on going into a new piece of technology or implementing and deploying automation at scale? Yeah,
absolutely. So what we do is at the corporate office, we have this big caged ring, and basically I let my vice presidents get in there, and whoever survives wins the capital.
Yeah, so the strong shall get...
The strong shall survive.
Yes.
And so they let them duke it out, and whoever wins, then that's who gets the capital. So for us...
I love your way of managing. This is great.
Right, it's so fun to watch. Like everyone's like, ooh. So capital deployment, super critical, right? It's the lifeblood of your future. right? How you reinvest back into your business is your future, right? It's your investment in the bets you've made that lead to that future success. So for us, it's a very disciplined process. First thing is that the door is always open. Mm-hmm. So anytime, anywhere in our business, if someone's got a great idea that needs capital, they can raise their hand and say, hey, I got this great idea. I want to get it in.
Yeah.
Rather than an annual cycle that's like, okay, we saved up all the money in the cookie jar.
Submit your budget.
Submit it, and let's shake out the cookie jar and then dole it all out. And I'll see you guys in a year.
Yeah.
So that's number one. And that's really material because we did use the cookie jar approach in the past. And it was like one moment, one time, one challenge, and all the money got doled out, and I'll see you in a year. So that's one, is that you have to keep an open door. You got to keep a little dry powder.
Yeah.
And that as, CEO and board, that's ready for that good idea. So don't spend it all. Leave yourself a little bit room for that next good thing. The second big thing is that the return on capital oftentimes can't actually be determined.
Okay.
Because the alternative is just, the way we say it, is stupid on its face.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, for example, hey, you got this big, beautiful loader that has been operating since 1982. It's 40 years old.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, well, we want to replace it. And, we've tried to do a return on capital based on, how much we think it's going to cost us to keep on maintaining it, or, what we think the alternative cost is between the two different loader buckets. It's like, it's just, no. It's 40 years old.
Yeah.
It needs to be replaced. We can't measure the thing that you're not going to do because we're not going to ever replace that final drive or that transmission or that engine, right? And trying to theoretically say that's a savings. It's like, well, we didn't do it, so we saved it. So this new loader saved us this money. It's not very real.
You're probably going to total that equipment out or something if it goes out.
It's going to go away, right? So often, you get tangled up trying to get a return on investment and on things that are just must-do replacements, right? If you're going to stay in the business and it's a core tool, it's a must replace. And don't get too tangled up trying to prove to yourself that it's a good idea, because if the alternative is just stupid, move on, right?
Make the call, move on.
Make the call and move on. And that leaves space and time and attention to work on the things that do need that analysis, right? The things that are going to be game changers, the things that are going to innovate, things that are going to change what you do, that you do need to invest that time and effort into before you put your capital into it. Mm-hmm. Because those are going to really change things. And those you're going to want to track and measure against and make sure that you're doing what you said you did and it's performing in the way you wanted it to perform. So that's how we do it. I would be much funner to do the cage match methodology. But ultimately it comes down to, okay, source up your ideas any time of year. Let's make sure we're doing the things that we have to do to keep the business running, and where the alternative is just stupid on its face. And then if it's something new and innovative that we need to prove out, we're going to do the math. What's the return? How's it going to affect our people, our operations, and ultimately value to the company?
Yeah. I like that process. I think it's really key to not spend too much time trying to work out this long projection on a piece of equipment that, like you said, should just be replaced because it's past its useful life.
Right.
You've depreciated it and then some for 40 years. It sounds like it's about time.
It is. And in any business, I mean, and that's an extreme example, but in any business, there's assets that you fall in love with and you're like, oh, we can't get rid of that. That was my first pickup when I joined the company. We can't get rid of that one. And it's like, well, time is time, right? And it's time to move on. Let's keep going, right? But you still need a pickup.
Yeah.
So just move on, right? Make the decision, move on, right? You got to be a leader. You got to make decisions and then just move on.
So I think that's really hard for some of the founder-led companies who start the company and are still the CEO, still running it. And I took over from my dad, so I'm not the founder, and I'm able, I think, to make decisions a little more objectively, less emotionally. Sounds like you kind of have that same perspective. But for someone who maybe started their company in the last 5 to 10 years and they're very connected to those things, what's a good process for them to go through to try to remove the emotions from some of these capital investments, whether it's buying a new weed eater, right, of a small landscape company, or it's investing in a whole new, truck, trailer, skid steer setup for a construction company? Yeah,
no, absolutely. So a couple parts to that is, one, Graniterock is still family owned. I am not a part of that family. I'm just a professional that works for the company and works for the family. Maybe that gives me a little bit of freedom to be a little bit more push and pull and radical. It also gives me a level of accountability to perform. Because, I want to perform for the owners. I just do at my core, right? And so there's that dynamic piece there. So, being a founder owner, listening to your professional staff, I think is important because they're going to challenge you. They're going to ask you hard things and they're doing it for a reason. And if you feel that welling up of emotion, that just visceral, like, I don't like it. You got to okay, let me understand where they're coming from before you make the decision. Because ultimately the decision will be yours, right? Yeah. But listen before you act. So, ownership versus professional management, don't forget to listen to the people that you hired because you hired them for a reason. Give them space to voice their concerns or their desires for that weed eater.
Right.
And listen to them because, don't just stick to the one that worked for you.
Yeah.
So that's the second part is just because it got you to where you are doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get you to where you want to go. So the weed eater that you fired up 5 years ago with its 2-stroke engine that was ripping and tearing and would just, go and do its thing and it was awesome. That's not allowed, at least in California and many places anymore.
Yeah.
So you got to move on, right? And even though you're like, dude, that thing would totally did the best production. Like, why would we ever not keep buying those? Like, it's not the future of where you need to take your company.
Just like the donkeys and the carts back in the pick days.
Right. And there's pain in that moment. And there's pain for us too. I mean, even in the big gear, you're like, hey, this model of, 992 size loader has been amazing for us. Well, Cat's moved on to the next model version and you got to let it go, right? Like you could live in the used 992 model space and keep buying used equipment to stay there, but you got to be ready to move on and understand what you need next.
How do you create a culture that embraces that type of innovation? Because in our industries, in construction industry, but I think civil especially, there is a connection to that old school 992 mindset or other, there's another analogy for that. But how do you build a culture of innovation in an industry that sometimes can be a little stuck in the mud?
Yeah, no, seriously stuck in the mud sometimes. Literally. The opportunity there is that one, I'm an optimist. I believe in people. I think that a lot of the change anxiety can be relieved with good, clear transparency and understanding. Yeah. If you try to rush through that, then people will latch on to what they know, right? And especially in the construction, because they're like, hey, I just used it. I just built it. I just been a part of this. This has worked for me. And, gosh, this is a risky business and it's a hard business. Why would we change? And you got to spend the time to get that transparent communication on, okay, this is how we're going to move on, right? And you got to listen to their concerns and you got to provide them a mitigation, even though you may not want to, even though it may not be rational, right? And it's like, okay, for them it's real. And if you don't spend the time to listen, provide the mitigation for the concern, then they will just not want to adopt it and they will ensure failure of the adoption of the new thing.
So it's making sure they feel heard.
They got to be heard, right? Why? Like, why are you concerned about switching from, because I was a part of the era when, the motor graders switched from, levers to joysticks, right? Like huge transition, right? Whole skill set of how you operated that piece of equipment to electronic controls. but you have to work through those people and you have to convince them that they're concerned. And some of it is real, like super real. It's like, hey, am I about to lose my job?
Right.
Because this is how, and this is what I do, and this is what I'm good at. And you're asking me to do something that I'm not good at. Am I going to lose my job?
Yeah.
Right? Real, right? Families.
Major fear.
Right? Like people they're caring for. And this decision that the company made, is that putting that core, like why you're working at risk? But you got to spend the time, right? You got to be like, hey, I understand that concern. Here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to keep both for a little while so you can learn this one. While you learn this one, we're going to give you training. We're going to be tolerant of you not performing at the same level as you were. But you have to give them some semblance of mitigation. If you're just like, hey, we got the new thing, get in it and get going. Ooh, that's going to be a moment.
Yeah, that's not how you create change and safety.
No.
So, yeah. And what's that training look like? I mean, I've got to imagine the culture is a constant culture of training if you have a constant culture of innovation.
Yeah, I mean, Graniterock very much is a people company. So the majority of our training all comes through that people, connection and succession of passing on your knowledge to the next person. So, and that's the place of like the greatest trust, right? Because you have to trust your teacher, you trust your trainer. And so that's where we lean into, right? So is that, someone will have to come in and train the trainer, right? And be like the official person that's the, Cat or John Deere, official trainer. They'll train somebody. And then that Graniterock person that people trust would be the one that trains everybody else. Because that trust is the primary, currency to allow the learning to occur. Because otherwise, that professional trainer can sometimes have a lot of friction, right? And you're just not going to get full adoption. Sometimes you can run them in parallel and have two together, and it's a little bit time with the pro, a little bit time with the Graniterock person, and kind of tag back and forth. But you got to have that trust currency in place and operating to let change occur.
Yeah, I really like that. I think we sometimes just go for the professional, and they know everything, and they're saying all the right things. But if you're in the field and you're running a dozer, running equipment every day, and then you go sit in a classroom environment and you're listening to this, well-dressed individual tell you all this stuff, you're kind of in the back of your head. You're like, bullshit. I don't trust what you're saying,
Right. And they're likely technically 100% correct on everything they're giving them, but it's not going to go in.
Yeah.
It's just going to stop right there at the door, boop, and fall dead.
Yep. Yeah. That's a really, really great point. That's a nugget there we can take away. So we talked a lot about the last 126 years. What's the future look like for Graniterock? What's the next 125 years, 126 years look like?
Yeah. So the good thing about, the industry we're in, I'm a firm believer, what we're going to be doing is what we've been doing as it goes to, the communities we're operating in, the work that we do. I think that flying cars will someday probably come on the scene, but heavy delivery of goods is going to stay on the ground. So we're still going to need roads. We're still going to need bridges. So I think we'll make it through the next 125 years without a major critical disruption. I think that there's a lot of opportunity in the quality of life space of what happens next over the next 125 years based on, what we're asking out of our people to go and do as far as the manual part of the work, because there's a lot of heavy, hard, difficult things still in our industry. I think that humans will absolutely still be building and doing, but the dangerous and hard will now be deferred to automation, robotics, and machines. But there's still going to be somebody who's overseeing, managing, operating those things, which will just be a net improvement in quality of life. Less people getting hurt, that type of thing. Graniterock, we have rock to spare. We'll still be getting rock out of the ground in 125 years. So we'll still be in Aromas. We'll still be in Watsonville. We'll still be in the Bay Area, still be in the Central Coast. This is our home. This is where we live. Our people work here. We'll just be talking about, the great grandkids of who started in the beginning of 1900, but we're not going anywhere. This is our home. This is where we want to be, and we're going to keep doing what we've been doing.
I absolutely love that. And I'm cheering for you guys. As a fellow family business, we're a few generations behind you guys, but it's really great. This community is a really special place. They really do look out and treat the business community well, even though it can be hard at times. The overall aspect here is if you take care of the community takes care of you. And I want to just give you guys kudos because it seems like every time I look over at some nonprofit event, Graniterock sponsoring, or some other thing like the 5 and 10K things you guys do, there's a Graniterock sponsorship behind that, doing good for the community. How much of that is part of Graniterock's success here in this community, that engagement and that constant support?
Yeah. So in our work, in our industry, it's real. It's connected to the real people that are working there, and it's connected to the real people in the community in which you're doing your work. Our work doesn't live in the interwebs, right? It's not shipped out. It's not experienced on your phone. It's real. It's connected to real people's real homes, real commutes, real occupations. So we firmly believe we have a connection to that community. And that's a part of who Graniterock is. Graniterock thrives when our people thrive.
Yeah.
That is our purpose. And that part of our purpose connects right through community because our people live here. They work here. Our customers live here. They work here. People are going to experience. Now, granted, when we're on the road and we shut a lane and you're pissed off because you're in a big backup, that's us. We apologize. Yeah. But once we're done, the road's going to be better. But we care about that community that we're in. And, on the nonprofits and the events and the things that are happening, that's primarily driven through our people. Our people are telling us, hey, this is where I'm showing up in the community. And hey, Graniterock, can you show up with me? And we're like, heck yeah, right? Yeah. If you're there, we're there, right? Something you care about, something that we care about. And so that's how that happens for us. And we believe in our heart, the greatest kind of manifestation of us having success there is when we have a family member refer another family member. And if we're doing the right thing in our community and we're doing the right thing for our people, they'll want to join Graniterock. And so we have multiple generational family members, as well as, broad family members like cousins and second cousins and third cousins and all the other things. And so that's how we measure success, which does create a lot of complexity with HR sometimes, but we'll put up with that.
They'll figure it out.
Yes, we'll put up with that. And the other side, which is that, hey, we believe we're doing the right thing because people are referring their people they care about the most, their family, to Graniterock.
Wow. I truly think that is one of the biggest and highest honors as a leader of an organization is when someone refers their son or daughter to come and work at your company. And we've had that happen time and time again. And it's moving because it makes you realize this person trusts me and this organization that much with their whole family.
Right.
It's special. And I've interviewed over 100 people now on Trades Talk, leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs. And the most commonly mentioned thing of successful entrepreneurs and organizations is a focus on the people. No matter if you're a tech company or moving rock or maintaining landscapes, when you focus on your people, great things happen. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about this era of AI, and we kind of hinted at it a bit. And I just would love your take on it because, I think we're in a very unique opportunity time because we have a physical, the trades industry does physical work. And now there's this AI component coming onto our work. And people have said, well, AI is not going to impact the trades at all. Others say, robotics and AI is going to take over everything. I'd love your crystal ball take on it of where do you see us in the next 3 to 5 years in the civil engineering and trades industries? How is AI helping? How is robotics helping? Are humans still involved? You kind of mentioned a little bit of that earlier, but I just wanted to go 1 or 2 levels deeper on that.
Yeah, multiple parts there. So, one part immediately apparent, lots of contractors, and even though we call ourselves builders and trade, like we're actually contractors, so there's contracts involved.
Yep.
The capability of having high quality contracts is absolutely right there.
Yeah.
Like it's here today, and a high quality contract is good for you and it's good for the owner. And that is immediately available. And the greatest failure point of, mid-small contractors has to do with poor contracts themselves, right? Getting themselves into a pickle that they can't get themselves out just because they signed up for something that doesn't have a good way to deal with change or a problem or, a critical issue, and it just put too much risk on one side or the other, or the owner inversely being put in a position that's like, hey, I just can't move on. We got to cancel the job, right?
Yep. We saw that a lot during COVID.
Yeah. So that's one piece. And I think that's immediately available. AI is going to be there. The breadth of knowledge there everybody loves a lawyer, but now you have a lawyer at your fingertips, right? And is it 100% right? No. Our lawyer's going to go away? No. But man, as a contractor, small, medium size, boy, you just upped your game 1,000-fold instantaneously. The second part that I think AI is going to be very real for is the quality of our ability to communicate with each other. I really feel that the era of the miscommunication between individuals, whether it be for language, just general understanding, being able to get it into a out of the jargon that you don't understand into a way that you do understand it.
Yeah.
Because you get dumped some big consulting compendium of like, here's the best way to do this stuff. It's 1,000 pages, right? And you're like, I need that in about 10 words.
Give it to me in plain English. Yep.
Yes. I think that's a huge AI benefit. Now getting into the physical space. So in the physical space, I do very much believe that there'll be an increase in safety. I think that the AI effort and machine robotic automation is going to make our world safer. Yeah. It's going to be faster, quicker, and better than humans at making things safe. That's pretty low bar when you think about it.
Right. Yeah.
Like, even though it's really hard to do, it's like, okay, just safe, right? It doesn't mean necessarily it's good, right? So
safe is safe, not necessarily.
Not necessarily the way I'll kind of articulate that, it's good that you can get a vehicle that doesn't crash. It's probably a little bit of ways from getting on the track at F1 and winning.
Yeah.
And be really, really good at execution, right? And that safety will get here soon. Like, it's already starting. It's going to get here soon. Same thing for quality of work if you're in the trades, right? It may be able to get you safer and better and kind of like that minimum bar level before it's really good is still a ways away. I do believe that, there's going to be automation and then robots and, all of those things are going to happen. But before it's good, humans are involved for a long time.
Right.
And it will get good. It will get there. I'm going to probably be my kids' challenge, not my challenge. Because once it gets good, then there'll probably be some turmoil and, okay, what now? Right?
Yeah.
And, that will be a challenge, but that's still a ways away in my view.
I'd agree.
Because before you're good, it's going to take a lot and a lot of trust, right? To allow that to happen. So I think we're okay for now. I think, as, contractors, tradespeople, put that model to work today as it pertains to like words and documents and paper and proposals and, get it deployed. Like, don't wait. When it comes to the physical space, implement those safety things. It's going to be better. It'll meet that minimum requirement. Turning over the keys of the business completely, I'm cautious.
Yeah. We're seeing this actually. The great analogy and example is the robotic mowing is becoming very much a reality. And we're actually utilizing that to a high degree, but not in areas where they want this perfect, cut where you have all the lines lined up and everything just looks super sharp. It's more of the, the little league school that they just need the grass go from tall to short.
Right. The minimum bar.
Minimum bar.
Right.
Just cut the grass. But for a high-end homeowner that wants these nice lines in their lawn, that's still going to be done by a human, and it's going to be done really well. So I think you have these areas where it's going to be easily to apply automation. And then there's areas where the human in the loop is still going to be a critical element to the overall success and deployment of whatever you're doing.
Right.
So either way, it's exciting time. And
it is. It's the next big evolution of, technology, and we're a part of it right now. Yeah. And that is exciting for sure.
It does give me some, talking with you gives great perspective for me, because thinking back to where it started in the 1900s with the pickaxe and the donkeys and the carts, and thinking of where you're at today, helps with this feeling of being overwhelmed. A lot of people are overwhelmed with the change and the rapidness that it's coming. But I think if we look back over the 126 years that you have been around and built this strong company, it's a great example of a company that can survive and evolve and build with the change of our communities and with the change of our world.
Yep. Just take care of your people. Know that change is coming. Communicate the change. Make sure people understand. Mitigate their fears. We'll be all right.
Yeah.
It's not all going to end. They're not going to take over. It's not Terminator Day. It'll be fine.
We're good.
It'll be fine.
So, Peter, I love to end these shows with a trade secret.
Yep.
And the question I always ask is, what's a trade secret, something you've picked up along the way that you'd love to leave our listeners with?
So for me, it's really two parts. And I say it all the time at work. Food is love and gear is great. So food is love has to do with the real personal connection of food, stopping, eating. When you give somebody a burrito or a taco or a donut, right? Like there's instant like, oh man, thanks for thinking of me, right?
Yeah.
It's a human connection reality. And for customers or vendors or the public, it just creates an equalizing space, and food is love, right? Yeah. People just appreciate it. It stops the humdrum of the activity, and everybody has to experience, because we're all still humans. So we all still eat.
So we have that in common.
We do. So food is love is an important part of our culture. And while we give good pay and bonuses and incentives and all of those things, food is better, right? Because it creates a personal, real connection. It's nice to get money in the bank, but having that connection with your manager, your team member, your peers, it just, there's a better moment there that's available to make that human, real connection. And the second part, which is gear is great. So you're wearing your, K&D landscape, gear on today, right? People love to represent what they're excited about, right? And when you give out gear to your team or your customers, or even I love giving gear to my competitors and seeing them wear it on their sites, there's a natural never-ending cycle of pride there, because the next time they get out that hat or that shirt or that water bottle, right, they're like, oh yeah, that was cool, I got that thing, right? Like, and it's bringing me utility today for that relationship or the thing I did, or like when I had that meeting with, and there's a really nice connection there that lingers longer than food.
Yeah.
Because food is good in the moment, but the gear is great and it lasts longer. But most of the time, people don't just like rip off their shirt and put on the shirt you just gave them, right? They're like, oh, thanks, I'll put it on later.
Yeah.
But when they get it out and they use it, then there's that connection again, right? Like, hey, I got this from somebody, and that's neat, that's exciting. And the gear is great. Primarily is a human connection for me. It's not, hey, we're gonna put 10,000 hats in a box and ship it to all 10,000 of our customers. It's a person giving it to a person. That exchange, that eye to eye, like, hey, this is for you, and I just wanted to thank you, or let you wear it around the job site to see what happens when when you put on the hat of the competitor or whatever. So food is love, gear is great.
I love that. And what's funny is we had a team meeting a couple weeks ago, and Josh Ross comes in and he's wearing one of your Graniterock hats, and I had to give him a little crap. I was like, what are you doing wearing a different brand to our company meeting? But it was funny. We have a few brands that we're like fair pass on.
Right, they're okay.
Graniterock's definitely one of them.
Yeah, so we got you.
You got us. It's great. We've got a bunch of your hats. I think every one of our offices, our team has some hats up on their desk, and almost every office has a Graniterock hat. So you guys are doing a great job there.
There we go.
Awesome. Well, Peter, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to Trades Talk, where the next generation of disruptors comes to raise the bar. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in the trades who's ready to level up. For more tools, insights, and community, follow host Justin White and join the movement at jwhitegroup.com.